during this game number 2, but really great look from EDG to be able to pick that one up and now really have LGD on the ropes.
And we remain on the same sides because LGD did win the 1v1 for side select. They opted for blue side in game 1. That didn't work out for them, so now they pick blue side again in game number 2. We'll see if there's any differentiations here in the pick ban or in this first ban phase specifically. Obviously, being in that true fearless format, none of the champions that were played in game number 1 can be played again, and that could mean that different priorities do arise in terms of what champions want to be picked here early on. Most notably that Gwen left available here for Sasi to potentially take, but it looks like maybe they want to get Nayo on some more comfort. He did not look great on that Skarner in game number 1. The Lilia would be something that he had a pentakill on earlier on in the season, so definitely knows what he's doing on that champion.
Absolutely. The Vi, the Lilia, I think those have been his best looking champions so far, and they are just going to take the Lilia. Lilia also works into a lot of compositions. She doesn't really pigeonhole you into one specific style of play, so we will see what the response is out of EDG. In terms of good things that are still up and available, you've got stuff, like the Jace. You also could potentially pick yourself up. I don't know, actually. In terms of things that EDG really like to take early on, they've very much been liking to pick their main lanes, the bot lane and the mid lane, a lot later on into the game. They will just take the Jace right here.
So Xiaohao, that's in Xiao, he won the MVP on it, and for good reason. That's been one of his best champions of all split long. After that, you're looking at maybe the Viego, the Skarner, which is not available, the Vi, which is not available, so his champion pool might get pinched a little bit. I would expect a jungler here on 3, but it looks like the soul laners early on selected here for EDG. It'll be Angel on the rise, ZDZ presumably on that Jace. Of course, picking that without the Scion being available means you already dodge yourself away from one of the big notable counters here for ZDZ.
And Angel has looked really good on this rise. It's been one of his best looking champions so far. Really good proactive uses of the Realm Warp is what we are looking for out of these rises. Have to see what the matchup is going to be. Could well be the Corki. Corki obviously can move down into the bot lane as well. And actually going to get the Wukong locked in. So this is a Wukong counter right here. Sasi going to take it into ZDZ. You can go toe-to-toe with the Jace early on, but it's a pretty skill-based matchup.
That's fascinating here for Sasa. I mean, he's been able to play some of his own pocket picks throughout the split. Things like the Udyr top lane, obviously, have risen up in priority specifically for LGD. But this Wukong pick, we have not seen much of it since, what was it, like season 10 or 11. Now, getting picked up as that traditional counter into the Jace, as you said, can close that gap really easily, can win on those early duels, but definitely put your team at a little bit of risk in terms of damage in the late game. So having that backup in terms of the Corki and the Lilia going to be big. The response here to round out the composition for EDG's first rotation will be the Viego going towards Xiaohao.
The Viego is something that we're seeing as usually a pick during game number 3, where you've got quite a lot of these pickups no longer available to you. It's pretty aggressive in that you can gank effectively early on, but at the same time scales really well, and alongside something like a Jace and a Ryze, this is good setup for you to be able to get that first kill. Always the most important thing when you're playing the Viego. Get that first kill, turn the rest of the team fight on from there. I think it also always opens up something like a Jinx, where you are very much just looking to burst out that first initial person, get excited, get the body available for Xiaohao, and then play the rest of the team fight out from there. Again, we are waiting to have our bottom laners picked at the end of these rounds. Very rare. We usually see bot laners and supports picked up a little bit earlier on. Nautilus taken off the board, as is the Kalista. The lack of Kalista or Nico available really makes that bot lane a lot less explosive overall, but we do still have strong pickups available. Things like the Misfortune and the Ashe still here.
And those picks have been very important specifically towards On, I would say. Like, those are the utility focused champions that he's been a little bit better at. Obviously, we saw him on the Lucian have a very high presence, so looks like they might leave him for the last pick here on EDG's side. Go down the support tier list pretty heavily.
So it's better. It's a much better pickup here without that counter of the Alistar available to you. With the Rel grabbed there, I do wonder if EDG are potentially looking towards that Misfortune. It's one of the best pairings. That being said, though, you've got a Wukong already. That could jump into the backline and disrupt onto that bullet time. Always a bit of a risk to take it without the full tanky frontline setup that you would otherwise want.
Now, what does XQW want to play? We're looking for a bot laner, most likely, as well. Okay, so that's going to actually flex the Corki into the mid lane here for XQW. I feel like we've seen it more and more towards the bottom lane, but still can be played mid. especially into the rides. A relatively safe matchup here for the Corki.
Yeah, should be neutralizing that one out. You're not particularly looking at that as an explosive lane. And it is going to be the Leona right here. This is some great long-range engage right here that you can try to play around. It's some non-committal as well. And then you can go jumping in with your Wukong. This dive pairing into the backline. Going to make it pretty uncomfortable to play any of these less mobile carries for EDG. I think they're going to have to look to something that can have a bit of survivability in and of itself. The Kai'Sa is a little bit risky here. We usually see the Kai'Sa in these full into the backline dive-based compositions. Not exactly what this is, but can pair up well with the Rel and the Viego to go make the backline uncomfortable.
A very interesting draft that we have had here in game number 2. Looking more like a game 3 draft with some of the unorthodox champions that we have up here. We got a Wukong top lane, we have Corki in the mid lane, we have a Viego picked up relatively early. I'm not really sure what we're expecting to see here from either of these teams. I feel like maybe picks are the name of the game for LGD, given that they have a Wukong that can maybe dive into a mid lane, have the Jhin and Leona from long range, but
yeah,
I'm not too sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the way these team fights are going to have to work out for LGD is you land one bit of longer range engage, whether that be a Swell Seed or just going to be that Solar Flare out of YCX, and then you can just go all in. You can dive in with the Leon, you can dive in with the Wukong and the Lilia, get a big multi-man sleep off, and then you've got the long-range artillery between a Jhin and a Corki to be able to deal that backline damage. They've got lots of AD damage available to them. They really need Nayu to pop off on this AP Lilia to really round out the composition, but there isn't exactly a ton of tanky champions on EDG that you have to worry about burning through. EDG, though, they are very much going to be about using that ZDZ poke at the beginning of these fights, and then I think they kind of want to turn these fights into a bit of a mess, not necessarily a straight up front to back. You just want to be all around to be able to get on and Angel and Xiaohao close enough to actually deal their damage.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie, EDG's composition looks a little messy. They're going to have to really scrap around, which is what they were able to do in game number 1, by the way, to get themselves that first game victory over LGD, our only undefeated team left here in Group Nirvana. But now they're facing match point up against EDG. With a win here, EDG will guarantee themselves a spot in the split 3 of 2025 at the very least, and create themselves a very nice path to playing into that play-in stage. On to the way for game number 2.
Absolutely. EDG. Potentially gonna get jumped here. Okay. Wonder if we were potentially gonna see a flash Zenith Blade right there out of YCX. Doesn't decide to go for it. Everybody just going to take a reset. We're most likely just going to see some standard lanes. Although, of course, in the previous game, we did see a lot of movement around. That was mainly because these bot lanes were looking to get very far ahead early on. Specifically, the bot lane of EDG with that Lucian Nami. And you had a Sion on your team, so you weren't so worried about putting him in a worse spot. In this game, where you've got a slightly more standard bot lane, and you've also got a Jace in the top lane, you really don't want to put your Jace behind. He can't fight back in the same way a Sion can.
Yeah, your Jace already potentially at risk of losing out on this 1v1 pretty hard against this Wukong if things don't go your way. So it looks like EDG are going to have to cede away their top side Raptor camps. As Nio on the Lilia, very good at taking these camps away, obviously with the Blooming Blows. And so now a situation arises where Xiaohao going to have to immediately path towards the bottom side instead of a vertical jungling situation for EDG.
Once again, the vertical jungling being initiated. This time, LGD, much happier to go and play this one out. Now, the Viego, he doesn't clear slowly, but Lilia just blasts through the jungle. One of the best things about this champion very much. So we'll see what decisions he makes, where he decides to go. Is just going to head straight on down, potentially even into the mid lane here? Interesting.
Caught out, taking a lot of damage from Angel, actually. He tried to take a very aggressive path, try to save himself that red buff. It's not even going to happen.
No, what he wanted right there was chicken to chicken. But in order to do chicken to chicken, you have to ensure that your enemy jungler hasn't started on the second chickens, and then that you're able to just take one set of chickens straight to the other rather than chicken into red buff. That's a little bit of an odd bit of pathing right here. It still has the same overall effect, but Xiaohao now looking for a gank mid.
Yeah, XQW gonna get flashed up upon. Valkyrie already utilized. XQW knows that he's dead, not even gonna burn that flash. And so Xiaohao will pick up first blood. EDG's jungler on a heater here this series.
And now Xiaohao can push in and potentially try to take away Nio,
Knocks
does he have
over.
the smite? Yes, he has the smite. Is going to be able to pick that one up. If he wasn't able to grab that buff, that would have been completely terrible. Still, though, you can just skirmish here. Blow the flash, at least, out of Nio.
But Sasi's going to be here first. Going to use that flash over the wall. Xiaohao going to be in
Oh,
trouble,
no.
and it's a response picked up here for LGD. But now ZDZ flashes forward. He's going to go to the skies on Nio, who flashes over the wall. And now this Jace is in so much trouble, Bloxer. And LGD get 2 right back for free.
Yikes, over-aggression right there out of EDG. They thought they could push their advantage. Maybe if you're able to smite steal away that blue buff, this one is playable. But as it stands, it's just way too much aggression on members. And this is exactly the start you would have wanted out of LGD. You've got the kind of composition that you're looking to get much more into the later game. You don't really need to be fighting early. But hey, if the kills walk to you, who are you to disagree?
What a strange early game here. I don't know why Xiaohao decided to play so hyphy there in that situation, knowing that Sasa had the first move. But then, results in him going down. Gets Nio very much back into this game as well. And the top side for LGD in a very good position right now.
Themselves in a great spot, and being able to be ahead in this counter matchup right here, brilliant for LGD. Exactly what Sasa would have wanted for himself, and he's going to be a key part of these team fights right here for LGD. You have to be that frontline engage alongside the Leona in order to buy space for the Corki and Jhin. These champions want to be sitting at range, and if they're getting jumped by things like a Viego or a Kai'Sa, they just won't be able to sit and do the multiple rotations of damage that they need to really be effective as champions.
It's creating a very interesting situation across the map right now. As again, we have not seen this Wukong top lane in a very long time. I feel like normally we get the graphics of the last time this champion was picked up in the top lane. Maybe it means that it was relatively recent as a bit of a pocket pick, and I'm just not doing my homework the right way. But looks like right now the grasp Wukong doing pretty good. He's maxing the Q to just get as much bonk power as possible, basically.
An odd gank right here. The counter very much could have come through. Xiaohao not quite going to be able to get involved in that one, but still, his XQW incredibly low. Ayu, be careful here.
Angel's taking a lot of damage from the Gatling gun as well, so not going to really be able to follow too far much. You know, important to note as well, XQW did not use his flash on that original gank in the mid lane, so he does have that available, while Angel and Xiaohao do not. That could mean something here as the grubs are spawning in 15 seconds. Xiaohao likely to get spotted here on this ward unless he's going to be able to invis right through it into the bush.
I'm not sure
But
if he
I
was
don't think it's gonna matter
quite
too much.
spotted. Yeah, right now Sasa pushed back underneath his tower enough that it's not really going to be too much of an issue. We are going to have both junglers in the area though, and the supports roaming up into the mid lane.
Sasa going initially forward here onto ZDZ. Already popped the Cyclone. Use that second iteration of it as well. ZDZ knocks Sasa away. And actually, it's the Wukong winning out on that trade. The bot lane also generating priority in the mid lane here for LGD, so they're going to be able to get all 3 of those grubs for free.
And indeed, going to be pushing their way forwards onto this one. Nice to be able to pick up that first set, and there's no trade onto the Drake either, so you can potentially go and fight around those as well. Usually surprising to see this be the early pickup for a composition against a Viego. Viego skirmishes so well during the early game. The Lily are much more focused on getting that power farming through, hitting that level 6, and then potentially trying to fight. Even then, you need a couple items onto the belt of the Lilia to really be doing that damage. So we'll see who's going to be able to get control around this Dragon Pit. So far, the push has been dominant for EDG in both the mid and the bottom lane. But things are going to move around a little bit. We're going to see these bot lanes move up towards the mid lane currently. Junglers not really booking it towards this Drake for the minute, and perfectly happy right now to just farm their way up and play this early game a little bit slower now.
It definitely has been slower. It's been a much more standard part of this game too. Remember in game number 1, even though the kills might have been relatively similar, it felt a lot more fast-paced because there was one move that was being matched by the other. After that first vertical jungle and the initial play, things have been relatively standard. The only difference is that Shaoye and YCX are now in the mid lane, with just trying to avoid on Wink, I suppose, and generate as much mid lane prio as they possibly can. Dragon still available on the bottom side. Nobody's claimed that just yet. It's been a full topside focus for LGD at the start of this game.
Very much so. Having the mid lanes, bot lanes swapping around as well just keeps people in the area for any potential fights. You want your supports around specifically, both the Rel and the Leona. Incredibly good skirmishing fighters, especially the Leona right here for YCX. He's going to need a really big performance if he wants to help LGD right here get themselves this victory, send us to a game 3, and keep their undefeated split alive so far in Group Nirvana here.
And taking a quick look at the standings as well, in terms of what this could mean for EDG if they lose. Loss here in this series would bring them down to 2-2. They would then need to 3-2-0 their last matchup against RNG to pull themselves into a tie with LNG in terms of game score at 3-2. And that's not even to mention what Ultra Prime can do at the bottom half of this group as well in the back half of this regular season. So taking care of business here would certainly make yourself a much better target for getting into that play-in stage particularly. As we're going to see another all-in popped here. Both Cyclones issued by Sasa. But is EDG doing a good job trading back, actually? Looks like he's not going to be in much trouble, as EDG will be able to secure themselves the first round.
Drake going to go over nice and easy, so the trade of the 3 grubs to the Drake is going to come through. Very, very delayed though. We've now only got a minute 20 until the next set of grubs is going to be up and available. And right now, a lot of members stood around this bottom side. You can see respect right here from XQW. He's going to attempt to head back to base, but I think he's too late on this one. Is indeed going to have it cancelled. He does have friends on the way. If you want to dive EDG, you have to do it right now.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to be able to get the wave in time. So XQW should be able to keep his life. And EDG know that they do not want to go for that dive at this point. As with that swirl sweep coming out, basically guaranteed that there's multiple members in the bottom lane here. XQW going to use his teleport to get up to the top side, clear out that wave, and even out the map once again.
Really needed to back away from that one in the bottom side, especially because you've now got those grubs spawning. 40 seconds time on that one, and picking up all 6 for LGD would be huge for them. You can split pretty effectively on the Wukong in this situation. You can also send the Corki to a side lane, a relatively safe champion to be in a side lane by himself. Having all 6 grubs would really facilitate that. EDG, you don't want to give that one over. You want to go fight for them, especially with the heavy skirmishing power you have with a Viego and with a Rise for yourselves. You can go join up with these fights in the Realm Warp very, very easily.
See if they want to try to contest that. Obviously, giving away 6 grubs to any team, not going to be good, specifically for LGD, who do have themselves a decent side laning here on this Wukong. You see already Demolish procs doing some damage, getting some plates over to the Monkey King, who now has a 500 gold lead or so above ZDZ. And Angel doing some good work against XQW here in the mid lane in response. You see he's built a really nice farm lane for himself. And that means that Xiaohao is able to start these grubs up first, but Nile is on the way. Gonna use that smite. Also, the E forces him very, very low. Will he use the Lilting Lullaby? Not just yet. So Xiaohao forced down to 300 HP, and none of the grubs going down. So it looks like LGD going to control all 6 of them here in this second game.
Yeah, and that really, really sucks right here for EDG. They would have loved to have been able to at least grab 1 or 2 of them, stop the 6 from going over. These Void Mites are going to overrun the towers if you're ever given the chance to step up to them here as LGD. But Xiaohao just stands a little bit too far forwards and gets caught out. Really unfortunate for him after what was an incredibly impressive game number 1 on the Jinzhao.
And Nile maybe feeling a little bit more comfortable. Again, this newer player coming into LGD after, you know, not playing much in the LPL before. 4 specifically split 2. They gave him the champions he was comfortable on at the start of this Nirvana stage. It worked out well. Then on that Skarner last game, did not look as good. So now he's right back to the champion that he got a pentakill on in the LPL. And doing himself a couple of favors with that. He's looking for a dive here on Asasa, but a little bit too risky here with that ultimate back up off of cooldown.
Absolutely. Have to put pressure on these lanes as well. They can do to really push this game a little bit further forwards, right? LGD, they're happy for this game to be a little bit slower overall. It's not like they completely outscale EDG, but it does feel very much like EDG, they want to be putting their pressure on a little bit earlier on, using the fact they've got a jungler that likes ganking, likes getting involved a little bit more earlier on. But so far, Xiaohao hasn't been able to find those angles, does now have the Trinity Force, so it's going to do a lot of damage right here on the Viego. Let's see whether he's able to actually find the angles in.
That's going to be big. The resets for EDG going to be crucial for having their composition succeed. Maybe just, again, chaos kind of unfolding here. It kind of adds on top of that, right, Bloxer? You don't want necessarily the full-on front-to-back 5v5. It feels like LGD are going to have a better job of doing that. So just looking for little picks across the map, finding engages, finding on, going in with the right angles here. Doesn't look like it's going to be right here at this position, though, as bot lane turret getting taken relatively low in this situation. The Dragon up in less than a minute. Angel taking a beating to both XQW and Xiaoye. Now a teleport comes in, so here comes that chaos. It's going to be ZDZ trying to join the fight, trying to cut off XQW, and he's been left out to dry by the rest of his team. Stunned up and taken down with ease.
Really nice teleport there. Found the angle. Going to be able to pick that kill up nice and easily. Now 30 seconds until the Drake is available. Can't quite turn around and pick that one up immediately. But EDG will buy themselves a little bit more space to push in, clear out a lot of the vision that LGD were able to grab down in this bottom side of the map and fight around this Infernal Drake. A big Drake to be able to grab. And it looked like that was a good fight for LGD originally. Like you said, Angel took a ton of damage, had a 4th shot to the face, a deadly flourish as well. But it baited XQW up, and the second teleport came through, the rest of LGD, they recognized that, like you said, left them out to dry. There was no reason for them to engage onto a fight that was most definitely lost.
So very nice proactive play by EDG, knowing that they have to create numbers advantages at their own will, especially at this point. Might find another one here on a Nio. Stun barely doesn't connect, but the Magnet Storm will. Nio's taken down easily, and EDG get themselves the feats of warfare and a nice kill into the hands of Xiaohao.
Grabbing themselves another pick right there, and usually you'd expect a pick coming through from the Realm Warp. Didn't even need to use it. Just stepping up in this situation. LGD, they're just not playing out this early game particularly effectively. Now here comes the Realm Warp in. Sasi is going to be able to jump away, not quite going to be able to use that one as effectively as you would otherwise want, but still, the pick, the Drake, EDG, going to be happy with that.
Now they're going to go back in here onto Angel. Sasi landing that first proc of the Cyclone. The Trinity Force has been a lot of damage onto the Rise. Wink just not going to be able to do anything to try and stop it. And so Angel will go down. Another kill goes towards the Wukong, who is starting to look like one of the stronger players here in the game for LGD.
And you'd hope so, right, from this counter-pick Wukong. Usually we see it in the jungle, but with top lane, have a ton of gold available to you. And straight up with the Trinity Force, this monkey does damage. Let's see how much you're going to be able to do with this champion, though. Because as these team fights go, you're going to be a key part of the engage. Not particularly tanky at the moment, but with that double knock-up from the Cyclone, a big part of the initial team fight from LGD. It's the ward that was teleported on earlier on.
Hey guys, it means control wards matter.
Hey,
pick up one.
Buy them.
Every once in a while.
Lots. Buy 2. Place them.
Let's not get that crazy. 2? No,
2.
Have you ever seen sometimes the pro supports, they'll have like one item at 45 minutes, and it's just because you look at their item purchases history, and it's just every time they go back to base, they just buy 2 control wards, and they just never have any money because that's all they do.
All of their money is gone every single time. It is very funny. To be fair though, vision is very important. I mean, we've seen it already in this game. LGD stepping up in situations where they really didn't have enough vision. The teleport onto the ward as well to pick up that earlier kill onto XQW. You do need it, but right now, vision a little bit in the favor of EDG around this pit. At least got a ward into the back of it. Nio.
Looking for a pick on the ZDZ. Nio already using the little lullaby in the Eve. And ZDZ flashes away, and now a teleport comes in. It's going to be the Rise joining the fight, but already stuck in a bit of an awkward position, but so is XQW as Wink has come in here with the Magnet Storm. But Nio finding the first kill. The Solar Flare will stun up the Rel, and Nio picks himself yet another one. It is 3-0 LGD off of a beautiful fight on the top lane.
This is what LGD's composition wants to do. Once you can get a little bit of flank going, so very strong. YCX gonna go in. Arn has to cleanse to get away from that one. At least preserves the flash, but that is easily gonna mean the top lane tower goes over to LGD, and they can turn down onto the Rift Herald straight afterwards if they want it.
So LGD playing this mid-game out very nicely here, led by Sasi, I would say, but Nio then starting to come into the party a little bit as well. 3-1-2 on the Lilia. One of his best picks so far in his young LPL career. They're not going to be able to fully finish off this Rift Herald just yet, as Xiaohao and An have also come in off of course, some of those resets.
Yeah.
So they will peel away from it, make sure that objective doesn't go down.
That's the main thing, right? You've died here, you get to go back to base, spend your gold, come back out onto the map. There's no reason to fight in a situation where you've got a lot of gold in your inventory. We just saw the Rift Maker completed there. Onto Nio, and it's him who initiates out this fight. The initial kill doesn't happen onto ZDZ, but it's everything that follows. It's this TP coming in from Sasa that just completely tears up this fight on the backside. Angel's already getting chased around, but it doesn't really matter. Not once you've got the remainder of your members involved in this fight. You can just turn this one around when it goes down. And then they just keep pushing forwards, right? You flash forwards, hang on.
Oh, X2W. He's very low right now. Xiaoye trying to collapse on top of him. Angel will finish off the kill, but it's traded back by the Ignite of YCX to make it a 1-for-1. So mid laner for jungler overall. That is all that will be done across the map. As you see, LGD still have priority around this top side, so Sasa and Nayo will be able to likely pick up this Rift Herald for free.
Only give away 4 kills right there. It hasn't exactly been the best couple of games so far out of XQW. We're struggling to find any of those ultis on the Azir in the previous game. He's been dying quite a lot in this game. In fact, it's all but one of his team's deaths so far. Really not ideal overall. But at the same time, this Corki will still deal a lot of damage with that Gatling gun. Can still just rip through people. We have to track if he's going to be able to pull this game around. EDG a little bit on the back foot at the moment as we have a look back at what ended up happening. Just out of position a little bit. Still, it does turn around into a 1-for-1, so not the end of the world. Not ideal.
Yeah, nicely done by YCX to make sure that Xiaohao was locked down enough and also had enough damage dealt onto him, so he was able to at least make it a trade. It does mean that right now YCX has 2 of the 7 kills. Shaoye currently has none, but that's okay, at least for this point, as it means that LGD still in a pretty decent amount of control. You have this dragon spawning up right now. LGD should be able to take priority around it, take it down. However, EDG were able to pick up first 2 Drakes, which means that there's no real threat of a soul stack early for LGD.
No, souls are gonna come slowly here for LGD if they want to grab it. Grab themselves all 4 of these Cloud Drakes. To be fair, this is the sort of composition where some extra movement would be really helpful. You can imagine the speeds that Nayo would be moving at. Mid lane tower going to be forced onto right here. Xiaohao jumped.
Oh, already used a Heartbreaker, but he just still gets stunned up. Really nicely done by YCX to make the first kill for LGD. Curtain call opened up. The engage from Wink to try to peel away. YCX might have gone a little bit too far forward, but he will live for so long and allow for Xiaoye to pick up a double kill. So the Jin gets on the board. LGD pick up 3 more kills while only losing their support. They get the mid lane turret and are looking for a tier 2.
Yeah, they're looking to push onto this tier 2 in both the mid and the bot lane. There's going to be a teleport coming down, but with all 6 of the grubs, Sasa is going to melt through this one. Mid lane tier 2 does fall. Bot lane tier 2 will as well. That's a huge amount of gold going into the back pockets of LGD. They're now going to be up by about 5,000, and it really is almost entirely across the board. It's only the bottom lane right now where there isn't going to be a big advantage, and that is just okay for LGD, which we'll have a look back at that fight. Although right now, a bit of a chase going on in the bottom lane. Sasa being chased after will get caught here, will go down most likely.
Oh, will he though? Clones away, flashes away, saves that cooldown for so long. And okay, be able to live there. That's a big escape here from Sasa. That no gold goes over, and LGD still get to maintain their almost 5,000 gold lead at this point.
Yeah, dude, that's a 300 gold shutdown right there for Sasa. If you get killed, has to flash away, so that is a big bit of the engage with the flash cyclone just gone. At the same time, not going to be too worried about it. Let's have a look back at this play. It's just Xiaohao stepping a little bit too far forwards. The second he gets hit by that Zenith Blade, he is as good as dead. Yes, the Solar Flare doesn't quite land, but it still slows onto multiple members, allows the Wilson Lullaby to come through. And it's just someone stepping a little bit too far forwards. YCX a little bit too far forwards that results in that death. Really not the end of the world, though. And something actually I wanted to mention, unless there's a fight, yep, there's a fight as soon as we jump out. That Sasa just dead. Well,
just gets shut down. Not even that killer instinct used for on. I'm surprised that Sasa found himself in that situation without even burning the ultimate. Already 1 for nothing. However, on half HP, Angel procs the warm up to try to get his team away, but he gets stunned up before he can go and finish that teleportation. And so Nayo will pick up the kill onto ZDZ. On also drops. It's a 2 for 1 overall for LGD, and they turn their eyes towards the Ravenous Otacon.
And this is the problem the EDG are running into, despite the fact that they have themselves this composition with the Rise. They're still late to a lot of these fights, not able to rotate across the map quickly enough before the rest of LGD are allowed to arrive. Atakan now going to go over to LGD. They're up by a good chunk of gold as well. And this game feeling quite a lot like LGD are going to be able to close this one out. We'll have to see, right? We saw EDG begin to fight back in the previous game. But as of right now, we may well be getting a game number 3 in this series.
Yeah, this is the largest lead that LGD has had all series long. This looks much more like the LGD that we have seen throughout all of Group Nirvana.
Yep.
Obviously, other than just game number 1, where Nio is able to have a lot of agency on a high damage carry pick. And the rest of the team able to kind of follow up. Sasa on this counter pick Wukong, also doing a ton of damage. I want to credit YCX as well, finding some really nice engages and setting up for the rest of this team.
This is exactly what you want to be doing right here on this Leona. Getting those early couple of kills, yeah, it's not ideal because you would love them onto your Jhin. At the same time, though, the fact that you're up by over 1,000 gold on a support means that he was able to hit his items a little bit faster. This Leona is now incredibly tanky at this point in the game and going to be able to play that much more aggressive and find those engages that you really need to on this champion.
And with the Otacon revives, they can play very aggressively in terms of kind of throwing away their lives if need be, if it means they can get a little bit extra gold in terms of a neutral structure. Obviously, the tier 2 turret in the top lane, a big target, as well as his inhibitor tower in the mid lane, on taking a big chunk of damage right now. And here comes the initial engage. Magnus Storm from Wink to try to peel away. It should be YCX at least getting the false revive, but look at the trade back here for LGD. The Lilting Lullaby connects. Realm Warp away from Angel to make sure On survives, but the force shot finds Wink, and Wink blinks and he's down. 2 for nothing already here for LGD as they get the inhibitor in the mid lane.
They can keep up the pressure right here, make sure EDG can't step out of their base, and then peel back on towards this dragon. 20 seconds until that one is going to be spawning. It will only be the second of the game right here for LGD if they're able to pick this one up. Still, they are in an incredibly strong position right now. Blue buff also going to be stolen away right here by Nio. See if he's going to have enough time to be able to go back to base. Right now, this Lilia with the Riftmaker and the Leandries, and then stacks on that Dark Seal. Just does so much damage. These team fights are just being won by being outranged by the main damage threats of LGD, and then you've got Nio and Sasi jumping into the backline.
Man, isn't it nice to have Nio on a champion that I feel like he feels comfortable on?
Yes.
I mean, the Skarner pick
was bad. Let's say bad. There were a couple of those engages where he was just jumping in by himself, no hope of the rest of the team being able to follow up. Good job from him to be able to get a pick he's very comfortable on, reset his mental, and then come into this game incredibly effectively. You see right now, splits off to go pick up the Drake without the rest of his team. Now going to take a reset, so this is the point for EDG to potentially try to find a pick in a 4v5 situation.
It looks like they'll be able to, though. LG doing a nice job grouping up together, making sure nobody can get caught out. Shock Blast only taking XQW down a couple hundred HP. Not really a threat to go for this Baron at this point, but they control all the vision around this topside river. EDG really have no idea what's going on around.
And they've got so little vision. I'd love to see a toggle to what they can see at the moment, because it's going to be a whole lot of nothing. YCX goes in.
Great screen here for ZDZ is what he's going to be seeing. As another really nice engage from YCX will find the pick. And now with the top laner of EDG dead, LGD can gladly start at this Baron, or even look for more. YCX again, this time finds Xiaohao. He's able to Realm Warp away. The force shot would have found the target. And so LGD, will they go back to the Baron? It looks like the answer is yes. Now Shaoye is at half HP, but he has the red buff in inventory. But Xiaohao is just so far away. Gonna have to try to go for some sort of miracle steal.
Yeah, I mean, you've currently got super minions in your base. Now the re-engage going to come through.
Oh, Wink with a really nice Magnus Storm, but Sasa will come through with a Cyclone. Initially, the first kill on a Wink. Angel now on the run, but the phase rush not going to do enough. That's just a big shutdown, sorry. Goes the way of Shaoye. And now it's 2 more kills in the hands of LGD, and they don't even need the Baron to just push down mid and try to end this game and send us to a decider.
Yeah, they want to send us to this game number 3. This is a massive game for both of these teams. LGD would lock getting out of Group Nirvana. EDG would lock themselves out of being knocked out. Right now,
I think this just might be it. The
it's
Nexus
over.
Tower is taking a beating right now. ZDZ down once again. The Nexus now exposed, and YCX leading the charge here for LGD. On to the Nexus they go. Just the bot lane alive for Edward Gaming, and they're not going to be for long. LGD, with a dominating performance, will win game number 2 and force a decider against EDG.
This series so far has been completely insane. It's a 40-minute banger for game number 1. This one, much, much quicker. Didn't even need to finish off the Baron to be able to pick up that win, did LGD. We said it during the draft race, right? It was a bit of a mess of a composition out of EDG, and you really saw that. They weren't able to find those big engages that they really needed to, weren't able to find the picks on the side lanes either, and it just felt like a very clean game overall from LGD.
And that looked much like, again, the LGD that we were hoping to see at the start of the series. It's just not really the most traditional team composition that they really always have gone for in game number 1, and Edward Gaming were able to take advantage of that a little bit. But LGD looked much more in control this time around. I really liked the Wukong counter pick that Sasi was able to play. It really mitigated what ZDZ was able to do in that game entirely. And even though we saw some nice engages, you know, from different players like Wink here on EDG's side, it was never enough to stop what YCX was able to do on that Leona, who I think deserves the MVP, frankly, after that game. I thought he played that really, really well.
Yeah. I think the issue EDG ran into is that, yes, the Viego does scale pretty well and gets to be a very scary champion during these big team fights, but you're up against a Lilia. You have to play this early map more aggressive than they did. Bot lane could have been a really good potential lane to try to gank through, maybe even go for some dives. We didn't see that at all. We didn't really see any pressure into the top lane. Mid lane, it's a tricky matchup to try to gank onto. We saw multiple times, though, the junglers did wander through there, having a little bit of a sniff, never found it. And as Xiaohao, you have to get your team ahead in the early stages of the game. You scale well as a whole composition, but you really weren't going to be able to win these straight-up team fights without some kind of advantage. They never found it, and they were never able to try to convert any sort of early game into a mid-game victory.
And unlike last game, where there was a little bit of back and forth and LGD were able to show some fight before EDG eventually took over, it really never felt like EDG were ever really in a position to win that one. And even in terms of like hoping for what their composition could become, it felt like LGD were always going to have their foot on the driver's pedal, in control, able to eventually take over that one, and they did with relative ease. That is definitely a good sign if you're a fan of LGD, and we're a little bit worried about what that last game entailed. If you take a look at the damage charts overall, ZDZ, again, kind of just the beneficiary of having a poke champion do poke damage, but I think overall, the big winners here, XQW on the Corki ends up doing a lot. I thought Nio had himself a very good series, or a very good game on the Lilia finally. And again, YCX making a ton of plays, a ton of engages on the Lilia.
Yeah, I would very much say that YCX was going to be my MVP of this game. Was just so aggressive, was able to get involved in so many ways. I thought that, again, we got to see another situation where it's the top jungle and support who are really able to just pull through for the team. Yes, Sasa's doing a ton of damage with this Wukong, but in these later game team fights, it's finding these big cyclones to be able to just keep these team fights honest from EDG, stop them from being able to step up and sit and hit with these champions that really like to have a bit of space in front of them. Exact same thing that we're getting to see out of YCX here, where he's just constantly in and amongst all of the opposition members, getting involved in these team fights, and was hitting a ton of very tricky Zenith plays, right? He wasn't missing that ability. I don't think I watched him whiff one at all.
And it was always on a crucial target, and even if it sacrificed his life a couple of times, like just the amount of peel, amount of space he was able to generate with all the crowd control that he had in his kit was just immaculate to watch. As you see a really nice engage from him here. We see another one onto Xiaohao to start things off, to pick him up before the tower even goes down. And it was those plays that made LGD always feel like they were in an advantage. And we saw some decent engages from Wink, but it never seemed to be as coordinated with the rest of his team.
No, I think Wink was trying very hard in that game to make it work. I was pretty happy with Wink's performance overall, but the rest of the team just wasn't there. There weren't any big damage carriers who had managed to get themselves leads that you could really try to play around in this situation. And it's very tricky on the on the Rel when you don't have your other members in strong positions. You see in that one, he gets a massive Magnet Storm off, but there is zero follow-up. I mean, less than zero follow-up. They're all dead at the point at which you're actually trying to make this one work, and this was all she wrote right here.
That was the one Zenith blade that he missed. It was right there when the game was already over.
Well, clearly
that's what it
not
felt
the
like,
MVP.
at least.
Genuinely very impressive performance. But again, as we've been seeing out of LGD, when they win, it's through a lot of different lanes. I think the only lane that's been struggling a bit in both of these games right here has been XQW, you know, hasn't been able to find big success in either of these games. Game number 1 on the Azir wasn't finding any of those big ultis. That was a pretty big problem. And in game number 2, got caught out of position a couple of times early on. Was able to stabilize it during the mid to late game. So not the end of the world. Most certainly didn't drag his team down. But if they are hoping to win up against some of the Group Ascend teams, I think he's just going to have to shore things up a little bit more.
Yeah, and for EDG as a whole, going back to, I think, what they are able to do best, which is team fighting. I would love to see that kind of come into play. They will have blue side for game number 3 if they want it, as of course they are the losing team and have themselves side select. I wonder if something like the Victor just gets picked early, something that can be very comfortable for Angel, and just allow it for that full 5v5 to come through, because we never really saw it in full force for EDG in that game. MVP to YCX, justifiably so. A lot of the time, it is hard to say that a support deserves it. This time, absolutely he did.
Yeah, he was the main contributing factor to LGD's success. Every bit of aggression came through from this guy. It's the engages that the team needed. He was buying so much space for XQW and Shaoye to be able to do what they needed to. Was paired up with Sasi and Nayu so well on those engages. Very well deserved right there for YCX. And if he can have the same level of impact in the next game, this may well be the 4th win in a row for LGD.
And so, we are evened up at 1-1 between LGD and EDG here in the LPL Nirvana stage in split number 2 of 2025. Again, LGD with one more game win will lock themselves an opportunity to play in a best of 5 to get into the playoffs for split number 2. Will they be able to do that, or will EDG get themselves a closer step to that spot? We'll find out once we return from a few short minutes of this